Hey, another episode of DecodewithLogor. When Burna said, Amorawa, tabari rawa, Amorawa, Udano, then row okay. Everything I'll be discussing in this essay is encoded into that verse, and it can be loosely translated into a statement that says, we know ourselves when we see ourselves, when we see ourselves, we know ourselves. Today on DecodewithLogor, we are discussing the future of credibility, KYC, know your customer, and trying to understand, as usual, what the signals are today, what the future is looking like for this very important part of technology and digital services. And in fact, we would now see the parallels from nature, biology, social interaction, and of course, into the future of technology. Animals and herds have a way of knowing if you're part of the gang or not. In fact, humans do. Everybody, nature, and everything in nature has a way of filtering their tribe and understanding who is part of the community and who is not part of the community. So it's safe to say the natural KYC is embedded into all interaction, verbal or non-verbal. Bikers, fraternity, tribe, churches, religion, sect, institutions, organization, and of course we will soon touch on technology. They all have names, symbols, metaphors, and subtle cues and signs that unlock familiarity within strangers instantly. You find yourself on a queue somewhere in any part of the world and then somebody speaks your local dialect. Chances are you turn around and make an eye contact, or if you do not, and if you do, it unlocks an immediate premise for interaction between you and these other individual or entities. So long as this signal is aligned, of course, it can also turn very, very violent if this signal is off. In the case of obvious history from perhaps even wars, fraternities, and all these type of intertribal situations, which is again showing us the importance of what we will be discussing. And we've also understood that these access codes, they're as old as time, and they also unlock economic capital. You know what I mean? Your aspire to perspire people have told you it's not what you know, it is who you know. You know what I mean? And then you have investment clubs, you have all these type of societies, and just even the sheer simple biological advantage of being born into a social class can also guarantee economic capital. And of course, many believe that there are fraternities whose membership would unlock wealth. And this essentially means that KYC, its logic, infrastructure are literally almost innate, and constitutionally it guides how all living beings operate. All of this means that we have to vet and then assess. You know what I mean? Ask and it shall be given. I could go on and on with the analogies, but you get my point. So come with me as we unpack this for that. Where we are getting to at the end of this conversation would be to understand the future of credibility. But before we get to credibility and that concept, I just want to do a little bit of a build-up to get us to where we need to get to. But in this segue, I would talk a bit about how credibility emerges, but through the methods of commerce and of course capitalism. And then of course we'll focus extremely on the digital economy and gig economy, as well as e-commerce, where the need for KYC is even far more supreme, and of course fintech. So providers of services have ranked that word of mouth is the most important. Many other tools are crucial in marketing and in spreading the information around the goods and services that one trades in. But in all of what is possible, whether ads, etc., word of mouth ranks number one. We agree. And in its digital iterations, it can play out as reviews, allegiance, finding your fave, and all of that kind of stuff. And we've realized that word of mouth is very crucial to even getting virality. You find something, you spread it to your guy shares to another person, and like that, that chain creates a network effect, which is what creates virality. Stay with me. And the sustainment of e-commerce. Somebody tells somebody, and then boom. Every phase of it, in fact, and of course the trade of personality, because there are different types of e-commerce. There's the e-commerce of selling tangibles, and there's the e-commerce of selling abstract and futures. But all of this, whether it is a trade of personality, influencer, creator, or fave standing, all ritual verification and community trust systems, applicable or scalable, whatever, inherited, innate, etc., they work across many platforms. And the handshake that we do, this tools becomes the verified badge, and the whisper becomes the review. The ritual becomes the way algorithms signal to everybody that you are legit. What I'm trying to draw a parallel from and to is that KYC systems, the ones I waxed about in terms of where we use signs and symbols, evolve, and in its digital iterations, it plays out in these small
important systems, whether it is review or whether it is comment section, etc. But what it does, it still continues those inherited systems that we've broken down, that is innate to our culture. And an example is that instead of handshakes now, you now have badge. You put something that lets everybody knows that you're an original brand. The comment section, what people are saying there, you also know that okay, other people have bought from you, that you're real. All of this is still part of the old becoming the new. Now, unfortunately, bad actors have weaponized these systems. Just as in the past, like I said, interactions can turn violent if the signal is misaligned. Bad actors have also robbed away this trust. What would that be in simple capture, etc.? Means that businesses, digital businesses especially, for the context of this conversation, have to be even extra careful. And this have given birth to a whole world of cybersecurity as we know it, which is the point of credibility and assessing and finding out, for example, who is real, who is not. And this has robbed away trust. Digital scams, impersonations, and financial crime have become a real issue for more than a decade plus, as I said, and gave birth to a whole industry. And as we start to see this play out, we almost naturally can accept that truth is dead. Perspectives abound, and then everything has to be verified. Even that is becoming more difficult to confirm anything. Systems are building and trying things and doing many advanced techniques to uncover or perhaps prevent. And, maybe this is a good time to give a shout out to SumSub, who have partnership with to spread the good word about KYC systems that they have. We'll touch that in a little bit. Now, voices can be cloned, faces can be swapped, receipts can be generated. So really, what is going to happen? The more the systems get clever, the bad actors get even more, would I say, savvy. But we're not here to doomsday and just wallow in misery. I'm seeing an opportunity emerge where the same systems that were innate and cultural that we use to manage our tribes can also be applicable, because everything is a design problem. It can also be applicable when we think about these systems. And a quick example of them is emerging naturally. We're seeing test runs of it, but again, they're signals. What I'm trying to say here is that community is like starting to emerge as a potential solution to this problem. It feels vague, right? It feels like, okay, what does community mean? But again, if you watch our previous videos, you get a sense of what I'm about to unpack, because I've said through ritual, through design, and through literal idea of community, we can now provide an opportunity for maneuvering and providing an exciting ways to reimagine KYC. And I'm not talking about some classic bureaucratic systems that we have let go of. I'm saying taking what might have worked in the past and applying it through simulated testings and looking at the obvious research and data available to us over the last few years of how digital communities have emerged. And a quick example, crypto, Web3, these are some of the first guesses that come to mind for innovation in this space. You've seen the way they converge sharply with use of telegrams, digital communities, and they all like vouch and bat and speak for each other or refer each other, but they also use this very strong human loop and human systems within technology systems. For example, we ran a study on crypto and we found out that within these whole communities as well, the person that is willing to buy and the person that is willing to sell still has to be verified by some third party who says, I know him or I know her. And this idea of community vouching, I'm trying to say that there's a signal appearing there. Credibility in this system, understand what I'm saying is specific to digital community. Credibility within this system is not some centralized authority where admin can just shut down people's opinion or no. Of course, they might have this kind of powers, but the centralized authority would rise through the way everybody and collectives have been acting. Obviously, amongst themselves, they would pick the voice that becomes the admin, or the admin reserves the responsibility of setting that community up. Therefore, the mission and the responsibility of ensuring that it does not falter is on them. And now, other members, through small shared rituals, whether your frequency on that platform, memes, energy, this type of repeated rituals that they conduct within these communities, then becomes the ledger that logs your own pattern. Therefore, your other members too observe yours as they display theirs, and you're all watching each other. And then gradually, trust is being built and it's becoming tangible again. But stay with me. This is not new. Like I said, this is how communities are formed. You move to a new neighborhood and gradually you become embedded. It's both for good or for bad, but stay with me. The idea of community vouching, where each member has unique access code, rituals for assembling, rituals for voting, rituals for allocation of wealth or ideas or resources, I think It's a beautiful evolution from some of our ancient rights, and we can look into it and leverage it. Again, there are already new signals playing it out. This is not sudden. Technology is evolving into that. And I'm saying, by paying attention to what is going on here, we can start to understand and reimagine KYC especially. And I have a brilliant case study that will localize this in a little bit. But we at DecodewithLogor, where we are purely a gig economy product, and our job is primarily to help you find gigs, right? But if you really deep it, the average gig worker, it's not only money. They also want to feel seen. They also want to belong. They also want to be part of a group that is progressing. So the key word here is the feeling of progress daily. How do you orchestrate that such that that gig worker's craft, efforts, and habits can be monetized, measured, and scaled? If you think about it, really, the gig worker's effort is disjointed. They've posted on this multiple platform, but in more corporate systems, look at LinkedIn, for example, is littered with like corporate bragging. And that's because the systems that already log the corporate effort, right? But for the gig worker, it's disjointed. We are adding an arena together, Gen2K. An arena becomes a portal where gig workers can now share their proofs daily, the same way they tweet or the same way they post on TikTok. Now here, you're just sharing how you're making the effort daily, and you get saluted by your contemporaries. Now, what I'm saying here, think about it. The uploaded material becomes proof and portfolio of their effort, which is ledger, which is logged against them and acknowledged by their community. Now it's a digital shop, collateral assets. One, it's a different type of town square where everybody in there together to earn, to hustle, to learn, and to belong. And these features, because they are logged, useful in the sense of when we now want to give something to somebody within the community.
The other members can say, for example, you want to say who's the most active, they can point to. Boom. That's a sorting system. Stay with me. Now, this, like I have summarized, is a form of ritual verification where belonging itself, just by belonging to this community and participating, you now have a ledger. You don't just prove who you are, you prove who you've been seen by. So KYC is not just your own password. There's also verification by other members. Well, if you're following what I'm saying, you can clone your mother's voice to call your sibling. But how are the siblings countering this? You now have WhatsApp groups where family members are alerting themselves that if you receive phone call that says so and so, I'm not the one. Or if a family member needs help, they ask for help. Because the other persons are on the edge, they do secondary verification from other members of the family. And then they say, yes, indeed, support, they need help. This is what I'm trying to paint. I'm saying in this future, the infrastructure of trust would not live in passwords alone. It will live in communities that remember, rituals that verify, and stories that bind. This is what I'm trying to point out. Is emerging as the future of KYC. Now, KYC, move past the idea of just scanning my passports for chip and all of that. Fine, those are layers. But again, KYC companies are doing a very brilliant job where companies like SumSub are anticipating actions pre, during, and after. But I'm saying that there's even, in fact, an emerging design so innate, so traditional, and also so innovative and so modern. And it is modern because of the ways that we humans use technology. And it is that KYC won't ask for your ID, it will ask for your pattern of participation. Who sabi this guy? Not your pay work, but your presence. Amorawa o, tabari rawa. Tabari rawa o, Amorawa. Odano. What I'm saying, if you're very active on X, you would know the lady Dami B, one of the most brilliant young women who is doing this very active, practical example of how community in fact shows up and would evolve. And she's a brilliant case study. So for those who don't know, Dami B is a Nigerian SME growth partner, and she's the founder of Pages by Dami. Now, for those who have known Dami's efforts for many years of X, she started by promoting SMEs, doing her own thing. But like the keyword says, Pages by Dami. What she has evolved into is to take something so fine, all of us want to buy, but we don't know who to buy from or where to buy from. Because she's got that credibility and integrity, she's been able to scale that into systems that she now uses to orchestrate digital activities that makes e-commerce even more sophisticated amongst young businesses, young women, and even men. And I think that is brilliant. What she does is that she has like these codes that she gives participating vendors, practical examples of what blockchain systems or these sophisticated Web3 activities are trying to do. But in this case, you put these codes are now on the vendor's bio, and they're now acting as affiliate announcements to say, I'm with this person knows me, therefore I'm a safe person to purchase or buy from. Genius. It takes it a step further, whereby it does not only serve as network IDs, they also serve as access. They also serve as coordination when they want to do promo days. They can now have their own Black Friday coordination without the infrastructure of Jumia. It's like $1 billion business, in fact, over the years of valuation. But with one single act of orchestration, layered over distinctive years of rituals and design. I do, you do, how you show up, how she shows up. People trusted her, and then now people trust who she trusts. And that multiplier effect is an example of what I'm talking about in terms of the future. This is ritual verification disguised as marketing, you know? And please, you Nigerians listening, don't start getting excited about that word ritual. You can watch my previous videos to catch my drift. Now, that means code would help you unlock deals. Businesses signal that they are with her. This tightens trust loops without the heavy tech. She now does this so well that now partnering with her as growth partner to even scale this. So this is the point. Simplify and then automate. That's genius. That is Elon Musk level clarity. If I'm being sincere, that is how, tooling can emerge from activities that are embedded within workflows. You may not think about these things from that kind of interacting with it on the everyday pages of Twitter. I'm seeing emerge, and I'm saying it would influence the way verification, e-commerce, and even communities would evolve. And think about a practical example. Believability, like I said, is no longer now about credentials. It's now how coherent and how consistent your signals are. I'll say that again. Believability will become less about credentials. Nobody cares. More about how coherent you're showing up and how consistent that is across time and across tribes. Tribes have existed before and they have now evolved in digital communities. Quick example, a fintech app who wants to provide low-hanging loan embedded finance type systems for gig workers, and it comes to a brand like GetUrgent 2K and they say to us, for every gig worker that unlocks or that the community member can prove that they are indeed a strong hustler, on the Arena page, say for example, for every 30 days of consistently posting your work, delivering on your task, and then proving that task and uploading the proof as evidence, you would unlock its score that can allow you access loan. So you are indeed explaining, and not just explaining, but to scale your show up into capital. And that's what I was saying with the previous video, that attention can now be leveraged. These type of community verification systems would unlock a different type of capital. And maybe that is the way back to something real. Not clones, not impersonations, not those that you can't verify, not fake email scams. A world where we no longer need to prove that we exist, but only to be seen, and to be seen by the people that knows us, people that care about us, and people that will support us. This is what I see emerging as round one of the future of credibility. Stick with me for part 2.